It's time for an October homeschool update. Hi, I am Rachel, a second-generation homeschooler, and I've been sharing monthly homeschool updates and recaps of what we've been doing in our homeschool and how it's been going for a while now. And in this month's update, I'm going to start off with a bang, but I'll recap a little bit. A few months ago, I think around July, August, I shared that my younger sister, who's also homeschooled and who is in 12th grade this year, was actually going to be leaving the nest, leaving our family's homeschool here for her final year, moving to a different country to be a live-in nanny for our sister's little boy, for our 2-year-old nephew. So that happened a few months ago. She spent the last couple months of the school year being a full-time nanny to a 2-year-old little boy and getting all of her schoolwork done during nap time and after his parents get home from work and early in the morning before he wakes up. She has been absolutely rocking it, rocking the job, making great progress and getting her schoolwork done, making great progress on all of her senior year courses. Now is actually time for a very big milestone for the homeschooled high school student, which is taking the SAT. So actually she is going to be returning here to where we live for just a really quick weekend trip to take the SAT. And we're so excited to see her. Yeah, I guess there'll be a couple of hours of interruption in the weekend for her to take that big test. But, you know, this is a really big milestone to get to this point where you're taking this college entrance exam, and this will be the first ever standardized test she's ever taken. She has used mainly Khan Academy for test prep. She's been working on it by herself recently. When she was at home, she and my mom did SAT test prep practice and classes together, just to get a hang for how like math is done and how the questions work on the SAT. You know, it's a little bit different than real life math. It's a little bit different than real life what you do. So I do recommend, if you have a student who is planning to be taking the SAT soon, to do some of that preparation with them, just because it can take a little while to get the hang of the test itself and the types of questions that they ask. So we're very excited. We're excited for this milestone, and we're excited for her to be back. This milestone also means that she's entered the phase of starting to fill out college applications and filling out scholarship applications, finding all the pieces for that. So she really is making these big steps toward the phase after homeschool. And that's something we really have to always keep in mind as homeschool parents, is that it does not last forever. And in fact, it might go by a whole lot faster than you think it will. Moving now from senior year down to kindergarten, you know, just a little jump. In my last monthly update, I mentioned that I had a plan that my son was finishing up the first reader of volume 2 of All About Reading. And my plan was just to spend a couple weeks rereading all the stories in that before moving on. He staunchly rejected that idea because he really wanted to move on to volume 2 and start reading these stories. So I went along with it. In some areas, I would put my foot down and be like, no, you need more practice. You know, in some situations, I wouldn't always let the kid have too much say. But in this case, I was kind of 50-50. I was like, you know, I think it could be beneficial to go back, read these stories, you know, get smoother, get faster, get more automatic. But also, it's fine to keep going ahead if that's what's motivating and interesting to the kid, is to keep reading new stories. And All About Reading is not the only resource that we're incorporating for doing phonics. I might talk more about other resources we use in the future, but I feel confident enough that he's getting plenty of repetition. Reading itself tends to just naturally bring in repetition of different sounds and concepts. So, you know, since he wanted to move on, we ended up just moving into the lessons that we're working on. So I do the lessons, the activity pages, but we've also started reading through these stories, volume 2 of level 2 of All About Reading. For our literature and geography studies, which are kind of our core humanities of kindergarten this year. We finished up studying Africa. I think our last country was Ghana toward the beginning of the month. And then we moved on to European countries, and we're using Beautiful Feet Around the World with picture books. So we started part 2 of that program, and the first country in that is France. Now, I was pretty proud of myself because I'm not usually the most creative food person, but on the first day of our France lessons, we had a special snack of grapes and cheese and a crusty baguette type loaf. It wasn't quite a baguette, it wasn't that skinny, but it was a crusty, real loaf of bread, all of which is not really normal food in our diet because grapes are really expensive, you know, and cheese is really expensive. But for a special occasion and to kind of give this feel of France, I guess, we started off with a special snack. We've been reading through a handful of different books. We read a book called This is Paris, which went through a lot of different landmarks of Paris. And then we read the old classic Madeline. And because we had previously read this book about different buildings and landmarks in Paris, it was actually really easy to spot all of these buildings in Madeline. And I've read Madeline dozens of times, but I had never really known what buildings they were. I knew it was in Paris, but for most of the buildings, I couldn't identify them. But it was really cool to read Madeline after reading about all these buildings and monuments and places in Paris. So that was a cool combo. We've been incorporating some art. Beautiful Feet Books includes a coloring book of famous paintings, and so they schedule you to color or paint several of those paintings and learn a little bit about those artists. I had a fun book on Cézanne called Cézanne's Parrot that we got to read about. So now my son really remembers that Cézanne taught his parrot to say, "Cézanne is a great painter." He really remembers that. We've done some Monet-inspired artwork as well. And then I wanted to incorporate a movie. So the first one that came to mind was Ratatouille. We watched that. I had never seen Ratatouille before. Didn't quite know what to expect. And coincidentally, about the day after we finished watching Ratatouille, there was a rat in our outside kitchen, which was very exciting to the boys. If I haven't mentioned, if you're new here, I live in the tropics. We live very closely with nature here. I've also had a monitor lizard in my outdoor kitchen. So a rat and a snake. So a rat is not even all that exciting, but it was pretty exciting after just watching Ratatouille. Now for me, when I think of movies and stories set in France, some of the first things that come to my mind are like Phantom of the Opera or Les Mis, but my kids are kindergarten and preschool, so I'm not going to show them those stories yet. But you know, hey, in the future, when we come back around to studying parts of France history, I will be very happy to introduce those great musicals to my sons. If you've watched any of my one of my recent videos, which was about how to know when to skip a level or move ahead, I shared that math has recently become a very great passion and a very great special interest for my son. I didn't quite expect, like, he's always loved math. He's always, enjoyed numbers, enjoyed all the math that we do. But it definitely feels like it's ramped up this month in just like random conversations about numbers. So I'm trying to take it easy. I'm trying to stay off my feet. And there was one evening where I had to keep the boys entertained and busy for a while. And I'm like, okay, what should I do? Okay, so here's what I did. I gave my youngest son chalk to go and play outside. Then I laid down on the couch where I could keep an eye on him while he's playing with chalk through our front windows. And then with my other son, I just sat on the couch and answered his math questions. And that kept both of them occupied for over an hour. So chalk for the little one and just answering all the random questions he's coming up with about math. He loves to pose different equations. What's this plus this? What's this many sets of this? He's not quite multiplying yet, but he definitely is fascinated with the idea of, 8 groups of 8, 7 groups of 7, and all of that. He's also fascinated with cubes, cube numbers, 3 cubed, 4 cubed. He finds cubes very fascinating, and I actually learned from him this month that if you multiply a cube times a cube, the answer will be a cube. So if you multiply 27 by 64, The answer is also a cube, which it makes sense when I think about it, but I don't remember ever knowing that or learning that. So math conversations have been a big thing. Also bedtime conversations have been involving like taxes and rent and interest. Lots of number-based conversations. I did not expect that for this month. You know, homeschool always has many surprises for us. Preschool continues to be a lot of fun. I adore the preschool years. This past week, we were in the unit of Gentle and Classical Preschool that focuses on this book. My boys loved this. They wanted to read this like every single day this week. Usually I read it about 2 or 3 times. They wanted to read it every day. The illustrations are a little bit abstract-ish, so they really liked like looking deeply at the illustrations to kind of figure them out, figure what's going on. It's about a little girl who spends a lot of time visiting her grandparents' house, and they do that too. They love going to Grandma and Grandpa's house, so they could relate to that. Also, this book brought back good memories for me because I was at a thrift store in America and I saw this book for 50 cents and I knew it was on the Gentle and Classical Preschool book list, so I got it, and I got it for 50 cents. My preschooler also really enjoys joining in with the science experiments or art projects that I do with my older son, and I was so impressed. We've started a weather unit in Sunlight, and one of the experiments involved how a thermometer worked. And later in the day, hours after the experiment had been done, I was so excited and impressed to hear my 3-year-old like explain to me very clearly how a traditional thermometer works, with the red line going up when a substance is hotter, and then when you put it in something that's colder, it shrinks down. And he explained it all super well in a 3-year-old preschool way. I was like, yes. You know, it's so fun to see what they do learn and what they do pick up, even when the schoolwork isn't necessarily aimed at them. Then for a quick pregnancy update, hey, every week we are getting closer. At the time that I'm filming this, I'm 33 weeks. I'll probably be almost 34 weeks by the time this is posted, and that is very exciting because when my doctor first said, hey, we need to start implementing this treatment for preterm labor, I was 24 weeks, and what she said at the time was, okay, you're 24 weeks now, we want to get you to at least 34 weeks before delivery. So at the time, that sounded really, really far away, you know, 24 to 34 weeks. It's very encouraging to be feeling like, hey, it's not so far away. It's just around the corner now. We're getting really close. That's encouraging. And throughout most of October, I was actually feeling quite chipper, you know, like not as worried anymore because I know that baby's getting bigger, you know, he's developing a lot, getting a lot stronger. Every week, you know, is better and better. So, you know, feeling like I'm kind of relaxing a bit more. And then right at 32 weeks, then I had a night where I had contractions that were painful, not crazy painful, but painful, every 5 minutes for about 2.5 hours straight. And that freaked me out a little bit. So you can go from feeling, oh, we're fine, you know, nothing's happening. But then you suddenly get that. And if I had been, you know, further along, 37 weeks along, I wouldn't have thought anything about it. I'm just like, oh, you know, prodromal labor, nothing serious. You know, obviously these are not, nothing to worry about. You know, it just means we're getting a little bit closer. We're just getting a little further along. But being 32 weeks, it did freak me out a little bit. And I have been scaling back what I've been doing around the house pretty significantly ever since then, just for a little bit, let's just turn the corner, let's get a little bit further, and then I'll feel safe to start being a little bit more active again. I'm very much looking forward to hitting that point in November where we're like, okay, you know, baby's big, you know, we've gotten far enough along that we're not too worried anymore. Looking forward to getting there. We're not quite there, but we are getting so close. And really, I've been feeling good. I know a lot of people struggle a lot with pain, back pain, hip pain, all of that towards the end of pregnancy. And thankfully, that has not really been my experience for any of my pregnancies. I just feel tired, you know. But yeah, I'm thankful that we're this far along, thankful that we're getting so close to that corner of like, okay, a full-term baby or almost a term baby. We're getting close, not quite there yet, but so close. All right, let me know, what was something memorable or special from your October homeschool? Is there anything that you're looking forward to in November? Any big milestones? Do you have any kids taking the SAT this year? I'd love to hear about your homeschools. I'd love to chat with you in the comments, and make sure you are subscribed for more nerdy homeschool videos. I'll be seeing you. Bye.